Waiting is the most socially accepted form of self-sabotage. It looks responsible. It sounds intelligent. I am just not ready yet. I need more time. I will start when things settle down. But here is what waiting actually is. Fear with a reasonable explanation attached to it. And most men spend years inside it, calling it patience, calling it preparation, calling it self-awareness, while their life stays exactly the same. This video is about ending that, not gradually. Today, before we get into the how, one thing needs to be said clearly. This video is not anti-therapy. Therapy is one of the most powerful tools a man can access. For clinical conditions, trauma, severe depression, anxiety disorders, addiction, professional support is not optional. But here is the gap that no therapist can close for you. The gap between understanding and doing. Here is the most counterintuitive truth in all of behavioral science. Mood follows behavior, not the other way around. You do not act because you feel confident. You feel confident because you act. You do not act because you feel motivated. Motivation is generated by action, not the other way around. Psychologists call the clinical intervention built on this principle behavioral activation. It was originally developed for the treatment of depression, and the finding was so counterintuitive it changed the field. The depressed man who waits to feel better before he acts waits forever. The depressed man who acts despite how he feels begins to feel better, because the brain updates its emotional state based on evidence from behavior. When you act, you give the brain new evidence. When you wait, you give it nothing. And a brain with no new evidence keeps producing the same emotional state, the same low motivation, the same low confidence, the same low energy. This applies to every man watching this. You do not wait until you feel confident to hold eye contact. You hold eye contact until you feel confident. You do not wait until you feel disciplined to train. You train until you feel disciplined. Psychologist Daryl Bem's self-perception theory explains why. We learn who we are by observing what we do, not by thinking about who we want to become, by watching ourselves act. Every action you take is teaching your brain something about who you are. Every time you hold a boundary, your brain learns you are a man with standards. Every time you fold, it learns the opposite. Every time you do the hard thing, your identity shifts slightly toward the man who does hard things. Every time you avoid, it shifts the other way. You are training your identity every single day. The question is not whether it is happening. It is whether you are doing it deliberately. So let's build the practice, because everything so far is still framework. This is the daily work. Tool 1. Journaling as self-interrogation. Not diary writing. Not gratitude lists. Structured self-questioning on paper. Psychologist James Pennebaker spent decades researching the effects of expressive writing on psychological health. The findings were consistent across hundreds of studies. Men who write honestly about difficult experiences show measurable reductions in psychological distress, greater behavioral clarity, and faster resolution of recurring patterns. Writing forces the brain to organize what it normally keeps vague. And vagueness is where avoidance lives. Clarity forces decision. 3 questions, every day. What is bothering me that I have not fully faced? What am I avoiding? What do I already know I need to do? 5 minutes. No editing, no rereading. Just honesty on paper. Tool 2. The weekly behavioral audit. Once a week, Review the past 7 days analytically, not emotionally. Pure observation. Most men never step back far enough to see their own patterns. The weekly audit gives you the altitude. Over time, it becomes one of the most powerful tools you have, because patterns that are invisible in the moment become obvious across 7 days. Tool 3. Somatic awareness. The body stores what the mind avoids. This is not a metaphor. The tightness in your chest before a difficult conversation, the jaw clenching under pressure, the shallow breathing when anxiety rises. These are not random sensations. They are information. The body is telling you something the mind is trying to avoid. Learn to read it. Locate the feeling in your body. Then use what neuroscientist Andrew Huberman calls the physiological sigh. Double inhale through the nose. 3 cycles, 30 seconds. Enough to shift from reaction to response, from the emotional brain to the thinking brain. Tool 4. The identity statement. 1 sentence, written every morning. I am the kind of man who does the hard thing first. I am the kind of man who speaks directly and without apology. Then make one decision that day that is consistent with it. This is not affirmation. Affirmations are passive. This is a behavioral contract. And behavioral contracts demand action. Now let's talk about something most videos in this space ignore entirely. Access. Traditional therapy in most of Europe costs between 80 and 200 euros per session. In the United States, between $100 and $300. For a man in his 20s, that is not always accessible, and it should not be the only option. Here is what works and is within reach right now. If cost has been the barrier, this removes it. Men's groups and peer accountability. Massively underused, often free. A small group of men committed to honesty and growth, meeting consistently, with structured questions, produces outcomes comparable to individual therapy for non-clinical issues. You do not need a professional facilitator. You need committed people and honest conversations. CBT and ACT workbooks. Cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy are 2 of the most extensively researched psychological frameworks in existence. These are not motivation books. They are clinical tools adapted for self-use. University and community mental health clinics. Almost universally unknown by young men. Most universities offer free or heavily subsidized counseling to students. Community clinics operate on sliding scale fees based on income. In most cases, you can access a licensed professional for 10 to 20 euros or dollars per session. The barrier is not cost. It is awareness. Find one near you this week. And finally, the accountability partner. One other man, committed to the same work. Weekly check-in. The research on social accountability and behavior change is unambiguous. Commitment made to another person produces significantly higher follow-through than commitment made to yourself alone. Find your man. Do the work together. Now let's close this out. You have the questions. You have the tools. You have the resources. The only thing left is the decision. And here is the reality. Most men will watch this, nod along, feel something shift, and then go back to waiting. Waiting for the feeling. Waiting for the sign. Pick one and start today. Not this week, today. Because the man who keeps thinking about changing his life and the man who actually changes it are not separated by intelligence. They are not separated by resources. They are not separated by circumstances. They are separated by one decision. to act before they feel ready. That decision is available to you right now. Make it.